Welcome to this EPMA quick guide video, which will go through key aspects of the EPMA printed paper medication chart, alternatively known as the MAC report, Medication Administration Chart, for use during system downtime on the evening of the EPMA system upgrade. This quick guide video is specifically for prescribers who may be changing medication or needing to access the MAC report during the period of system downtime. Presented on the screen now is an example medication administration chart MAC report. The top section is where the patient banner is presented. Top left-hand corner will give you the patient's name, beneath which you have the patient's address. You have the hospital number, which is the real number, national number, the NHS number, patient's date of birth, and the consultant and ward to which the patient is currently admitted. There is an allergies and sensitivities section where a patient has allergies and sensitivities recorded. These will be presented here. In this particular example, this patient does not have any allergies and sensitivities recorded, and that's why the section is blank. Within the EPMA system itself, the patient record states no known drug allergies. The requested by section displays the username of the person that has printed the MAC report and the date and time on which this was printed. Top right-hand corner shows you the total number of pages of the MAC report for this particular patient. Moving on to the next section, which is the main prescription part of this MAC report, regular scheduled medications. And you can see a list of all the medicines that are currently prescribed for this particular patient on the MAC report. For each medicine, you will have the medication name, strength and formulation, the dose and the frequency, prescriber's name, and the order start date, so the date this particular prescription was started. And you can see that is under the start date section there. On the right-hand side, you have the route by which the medication is to be administered. Looking now at the tramadol example, you can see there's some additional information within this prescription, an order stop date. This particular medication was stopped on the 10th of November at 7 AM. In this particular quick guide, this is the current date. Order stop will be presented for those medicines that have been stopped on the day of the upgrade taking place. Any medicines that were stopped prior to that would not be presented on the MAC report. Looking at the next example, tramadol, once again, 50 milligram capsules, you can see there is the dose and the frequency. But in this example, there is a modify reason of change frequency. This is because this particular tramadol prescription each morning was changed to twice a day on this date and time. Moving on to the next example, drug not on system. You can see for this particular prescription, there are some additional bits of information. There is a plus sign on the right-hand side. Looking at the key at the bottom, the plus sign tells us that order notes exist. So against drug not on system, there is an associated order note. I will show you shortly where the order notes can be viewed on the MAC report. In the case of risperidone, there is also an associated order note. For this particular patient, there is a second page of regular scheduled medications. Looking through the list, you can see the last regular medication prescribed is chloramphenicol 1% eye ointment. After the regular scheduled medications prescribed within EPMA, there is a section, a blank section, to allow you to add any additional medication that may be required during the period of EPMA system downtime. These can be presented in prescribed in this section. The next section is the once only section. Once again, this is blank and will allow you to prescribe any stats that you may need to prescribe during the period of downtime for the patient. The next section is the as required prescriptions, PRNs. And again, for each PRN, you have the name of the medication, the strength and the formulation presented. In this case, there is some additional wording before the drug name stating either or. This is an either or protocol for lorazepam. The dose of the PRN is stated with the annotation PRN, an order start date, so when the prescription was originally prescribed and started. You can see in this example there are some modification reasons. That means this particular PRN was modified on the day of the MAC report being generated. The route, and in the case of PRNs, you will see the PRN notes that we usually see in the EPMA system, the indication and the maximum dose in 24 hours. Where a last dose given section is presented with a date, time and dose, this tells you when that particular medicine was last administered and signed for within the EPMA system itself. Another example here, promethazine, last dose given on this particular date, time, and that is the dose that was given. In the case of paracetamol, you can see there is no last dose given section. That means within the EPMA system itself, paracetamol had not been administered by a nurse and recorded within the system at the point that this MAC report was printed. Going back to the regular section and now focusing on the right-hand side of the MAC report, this is where the medication administration section is presented. And against each prescribed medication, the prescribed frequency will have an associated administration time. And against each one, there will be a box under each of the dates. So for example, tramadol here, twice a day, associated administration times are 8 AM and 10 PM. And for each date, there is a box against each of those times. Focusing on the key again, wherever you see a grey shaded box, that means that that particular dose is not to be administered at that time. So tramadol on the 10th of November in this example at 8 AM was not due for administration. And we can see here why the order start date was the 10th of November at 10 o'clock, and that's why the 10 o'clock dose is available for nursing staff to administer against. For PRNs, there is a similar section. Nursing staff can use this medication administration section during the period of downtime to record any PRN administrations that take place. Finally, coming to the patient notes and order notes section that was referred to, these sit at the end of the MAC report. Patient notes are presented first. Please do check through all patient notes for relevant information. As an example here, this particular patient has a consent to treatment form, a T2 dated on a particular day. So please do look out for the additional information and documents that you may need to access when looking at and amending any prescribed medication for patients. The order note section sits next at the end of the MAC report. So in the case of drug not on system, there is a note attached to drug not on system and you can view the details of the notes there. There is also an order note for risperidone Consta and the details of the note can be viewed here. Just to reference back, the plus sign is what indicates that there is an order note at the end of the MAC report. I will present to you now an example MAC report which has actually been used as an example during downtime. So for example, tramadol 50 milligram capsules. A nurse has signed for an administration against the 10th of November in this case 10 o'clock. Moving further down, I'm now presenting to you an example of a doctor, a prescriber, that has decided to stop mirtazapine on the MAC report. You must strike through the prescription, sign stating your GMC number, and also date the entry. Cross through any administration boxes on the administration side of the MAC report. Again here, lactulose has been signed for by a nurse as having been administered at 10 o'clock. In the case of chloramphenicol 0.5% eye drops, there is an NA annotated. NA, you can see in the key, means not administered. To gather information on why that medication was not administered, either speak to the nursing staff on the ward or alternatively look for the nursing staff entry on the patient's Rio progress notes to determine why that medication was not administered. In the next example, in the regular scheduled medication section, the blank section I showed you on the previous MAC report is where a doctor here, there's an example here of a doctor that has prescribed something new on the MAC report during the period of downtime. When completing and prescribing something new, please ensure you state the medication name, strength and formulation, the dose and the frequency, the route by which the medication is to be administered, print your name and state your GMC number, and then sign the entry, and also state the start date of the prescription. On the right-hand side, in the medication administration section, ensure you state the time in association with the frequency that has been prescribed. So in this case, this is at night, and the doctor has stated that the dose is due at 10 o'clock in the evening. That is the end of this quick guide video. EPMA team will be on hand to assist any prescribers and duty doctors covering wards during the period of EPMA system downtime and the upgrade taking place. Please do contact the EPMA team on the usual help desk number, which you can find on your desktops, to speak to a member of the EPMA team for assistance. Thank you very much for listening.